Good evening. Welcome to this regular public meeting of the West Orange Board of Education. Today is Monday, August 8th, 2022. Welcome to everyone here in our public session, and to those of us who are watching from home. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'd also like to thank my board colleagues who are here tonight, and as well as the esteemed Dr. Schoen and Ms. Flowers. So Ms. Flowers, would you kindly take the roll call, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Roll call, please. Mrs. Huerta?
Here.
Mr. Rock? Mr. Stevenson?
Here.
Vice President Rothstein?
Here.
President Tunnicliffe?
Here.
Thank you. Notice of meeting. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner: that a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board at 4:00 p.m. on January 7th, 2022. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Ms. Flowers. In consideration of the closed and public meeting of July 18th, 2022, I would like to have a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Any comments? Nope, seeing no comments. Ms. Flowers, would you kindly take the roll call?
Mrs. Huerta?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein?
Yes.
President Tunnicliffe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Dr. Schoen. I believe it's time for your report, and I think we have some presentations this evening as part of your report.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, President Tunnicliffe. We do have two wonderful presentations this evening with two of our leaders in the district. But prior to that, I do want to make public mention that this afternoon was really a wonderful time. Ms. Amistad Mandate and her team were able to successfully submit our preschool expansion aid. This was an incredibly cumbersome and comprehensive and heartfelt mission for our staff and for the possibilities for our preschool students. It required hours upon hours during the day, after work, and the weekends. It required the coordination with many people over many things. I am going to put into the universe this evening that we're going to get it. I'm going to look at this as the glass half full and the possibilities that are endless for this programming. So to you and your team, and on behalf of the Board of Education and the students that will prosper in this program, thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. Please call me as soon as you know. All right, excellent. Moving on, as President Tunnicliffe had said, we do have two presentations this evening. The first is one that is being presented by our very own Ms. Cheryl Butler, the Director of School Counseling, K-12. It is in regard to the social and emotional and mental health programming update. What we've done last year, I don't know, Mr. Stevenson, what we've done last year and what we plan on doing moving forward. So if the board could just perhaps come sit in the front row. We're going to move from this presentation into Ms. Amistad Mandate. So let's start with this first. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Butler. I'm the Director of School Counselors K through 12, and this evening I'm going to provide you with a presentation for the 2021-22 school year goal as it related to social emotional learning and mental health. During the 2021-22 school year, our objectives were to help the staff to understand the components of SEL, to identify reasons why SEL is important and essential to impact student outcomes, to identify approaches and strategies as well as resources to implement SEL, and to help all better understand the screening process for mental health issues and concerns. These objectives were addressed in the following ways. First, the board, there was a district-wide committee, SEL and Mental Health Committee, that was identified, established, I should say. The committee had representation from teachers, from administrators, from other staff members, students, parents were invited to take part in this committee as well. The purpose of the committee was to identify the needs at each grade level and to develop a plan to address each one of those needs. The committee was scheduled to meet several times throughout the school year, first starting in the summer of 2021, and a couple times throughout the school year to see how we were progressing. The committee identified what we were currently doing in the district as it related to SEL and what we can do to continue to address these 5 competencies of SEL. The committee found that SEL is something that happens everywhere in the building at all times, not only in the building, but outside the building. It's not in a specific class. It's not in a specific period. It's something that each and every one of us do on a daily basis. It is what we do to understand each other. It's what we do to interact with each other. SEL is the natural bloodline that flows through the district. During the administrative meetings, it was identified how these competencies were integrated and how we can best support each other with understanding what these competencies were. During our administrative meetings, they pretty much got a pretty good understanding of what the different competencies were and how we can best integrate them, or were they being integrated within our current classes and curriculum. We had found that for the most part, SEL, social and emotional learning, was integrated into the daily work that we do, but we did not understand what those competencies were and how they were integrated. This graph here kind of shows you how what areas were identified to help the teachers and the administrators understand what social and emotional learning is and how we integrate it into the daily work that we do. Administrators met with their departments, and they were able to share examples, share ideas that some of the teachers and other staff members, I should say, were doing within the class with our students. We also partnered with 3 organizations: Rutgers University Behavioral Health Care, Imagine, which is an organization that addresses loss of all sorts, not just loss of as we see it as death, but loss in education, loss with many of our students, it was the loss of routine. But we partnered with them, and we also partnered with teachers, with Teacher Coach. These partnerships provided and offered professional development. They offered workshops for our parents. They also offered different opportunities for our students as well. Here are just a few of the topics that were covered, that they were able to cover with our staff, our students, and our parents. We also took a look at our district website. A lot of times there were times where parents and teachers did not know where they can go to access information, to access resources. So we took a look at our district website because we felt that it was an area where parents could access, students could access, staff, the community could access the website, and they could get the information that they may be looking for. We posted various resources, the PD opportunities that were provided to the staff. They are posted there. They continue to be posted so that if the staff need to reflect on the information that was provided, they have that opportunity to do so. Also, workshops were provided to our parents. Those resources continue to be there so that parents can have that access as well. There's various resources, multiple resources for our staff, supervisors, directors, where they can also take a look at the information that is there and see how they can best apply it in their particular classes. Also, there were other areas where the different schools had integrated SEL specifically in their buildings. Some of the buildings created mindfulness moments in their school, where every morning there was a mindfulness moment. There was a topic, there was something that the students reflected on. There were SEL days in school. An example, I think it was at Redwood, they watched a particular movie that dealt with SEL, social and emotional, the competencies of SEL. And they used it as a lesson in all classes. They were able to discuss what took place and how it was related to SEL. There were daily messages to students. Students were encouraged to journal as well, provided with a topic, especially at the middle school levels. They were provided with various topics and asked to journal on those topics, and those topics were reflected on in their classes. There was a monthly newsletter that focused on a specific competency. It gave examples to staff, examples to parents, where they can implement the particular competency. We just purposefully integrated SEL in all activities. We wanted everyone to understand and identify those different competencies. Another area of the goal dealt with mental health issues and concerns. We had found that it was necessary for us to review our current process, our current practices as it related to assessing the needs of any student who may have been experiencing some mental health issue or concern. We reviewed our current screening process, and upon reviewing it, we realized that there were some revisions that we needed to make. Many of the revisions that we had to make had to do with the facilities that we may have been referring our students to. They were not set up the way that they used to be set up. So we had to work collaboratively with them to make it make sense to our parents. We didn't want to send our parents to a particular facility. They get there and not knowing what they should be doing, what they should be bringing with them, what to expect when they were there. I had an opportunity to also go with a parent through that process at one of the facilities just to see what they experienced. They permitted me to come along with them and just go through that process. That afforded me an opportunity to take a look at our process and also to communicate with the facility to let them know the hardships that many of our parents face coming there and how we could best address those various hardships. We developed an outpatient list of resources for our families, because there were many times where families had to be provided with additional services, and they would call different places and either they didn't take their insurance, they didn't speak the particular language that they were speaking. They didn't provide them with specific services they wanted in person, and they were only doing online counseling, providing online counseling. So we took a look at every resource here locally within our community, outside our community, in collaboration with Rutgers and Mountainside Hospital, and identified different facilities, resources, and identified the insurance that they take, the languages that they speak, how they best can support them. And we developed a booklet, in essence, of resources for our parents so that they then have that resource, and the school counselors are able to kind of guide them through that information that they need help with. Moving forward, based on the result, there was a needs assessment that was conducted with our faculty, with our students, and based on the information that we received from the needs assessment and the feedback that we received from the workshops that were conducted with our parents, we use that information to begin to plan moving forward. We will continue to provide professional development opportunities to our staff to continue to help them with understanding what SEL is, social and emotional learning is. And not only social and emotional learning, helping them to understand mental health, what their role is in with identifying the student, and what our role is as the school counselors, as the SACs within the district, what is our role is once the student is identified, what then we are responsible for doing. And also the information that we can and cannot share with them. There's a lot of times a staff member may report a particular student with a particular concern, and they want to know everything that has taken place, and what due to confidentiality that cannot happen. So helping them to understand that and understand why, and when that student returns, how they can best support that student once they return to the school in the event that they're out for a particular period of time. We're going to continue to collaborate with our administrators so that we can provide them with resources to best support the integration of social and emotional learning into their current curriculum and into their current classes. And the last thing that we're looking to do is to identify a program and process to consistently implement SEL district-wide. One of the programs that we had identified was Second Step. The process in implementing it, they work very closely with CASEL. CASEL is social and emotional learning platform. And just the process to go through implementing it this year was not possible. But well, 2021-22 school year, it was not. We're looking forward to 2022-23 school year to implement that program. Thank you. Thank you much.
All right, Ms. Butler, thank you very much. I think having an understanding of where we were and where we're going is super important. SEL has always been important, but moving forward now in these times toward more normalcy, it will continue to be important. So Ms. Butler, for talking about the programming that you put into place, it is truly your army of school counselors that make it come to a reality, and our SACs and your team who are on the ground. So for that, we're eternally grateful. So I just wanted to thank you. Thank you again. We do have one more presentation this evening. It would have occurred at our last board meeting. If you recall, we had some tech issues, but we are back in business. With that said, I want to introduce our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Ebony Mendez. She'll be providing us an overview this evening of the district's response to numerous curricular mandates. This presentation will also be posted on our district website tomorrow. New Jersey universal mandates to be covered this evening include Holocaust and genocide mandates, Amistad Mandate, history of disabled and LGBT mandate, diversity, equity, and inclusion mandate, climate change mandate, Asian American and Pacific Islander mandate, as well as New Jersey health standards that were revised in 2020 for implementation in September of 2022. So you and your team really put together an incredible presentation. I thank Ms. Martino for being here today, as well as our Director of Diversity, Dr. Pollins. These mandates affect all of us on many different levels. So with that said, Mr. Mendez.
Thank you. Good evening to our board, to our community, to our staff. This evening, we're really going to discuss the NJDOE's curricular mandates that have been implemented for quite some time at this point, and how we are in West Orange implementing them directly into our curriculum. Thank you to the board for your support as we continuously look to receive feedback and go through the process of just being very thoughtful of our curriculum, to our public, who's also certainly provided us a lot of resources and different types of feedback for how we are considering that work. It is for the community. And so then that's what we're thinking about above and beyond these standards. To our team, here you will see members who've contributed directly to this presentation. Mike Figueredo, he's our supervisor of social studies. We know that he's probably taken the brunt of the implementation in social studies, but we are implementing the mandates across different content areas. Elizabeth Veneziano, Beatrice Hanratty, Nancy Mullen, Stephanie Soriano. And then in the future, you'll be getting a presentation directly on DEI, diversity, equity, and access from Dr. Pollins. And so then you'll hear a different arm on our implementation. Today, we are focusing specifically on curriculum. And so then our mission is, alongside the NJDOE, to be deeply committed to ensuring that schools are safe, welcoming, inclusive environments for all of our students. This is in alignment with our standards. Our standards are also designed to support the development of curriculum that highlight the contributions and experiences of individuals across all areas, diverse abilities, cultures, identities, and perspectives. It's important to note that the standards are the minimum. The district has priorities. Our community speaks often, and we listen. And so then we start with the standard as the minimum. We hear the voice of our community and what the priorities are in West Orange, and that's what is informing our decisions around the integration of the mandates. The mandates fall into two primary categories. They're the universal mandates, and that means they really cross all content areas. And then there are the mandates, or in this instance, the mandate that specifically focuses in on social studies. And so then today we'll go through each of the mandates, how we're implementing them in the curriculum. Today is a brief presentation. So online, in addition to this presentation, will be a companion document that will give very specific instances of how we are implementing the mandates into our curriculum. And so then we're going to start with Holocaust and genocide education, but I want to point out the structure of the mandate so that you can understand how the rest of them are written. Behind the title of the mandate, it's the year that it was implemented. In this instance, the Holocaust and genocide education was in 1993. In addition to that, in the mandate, it'll tell us where we are required to implement the mandate. So for Holocaust and genocide, it is required in all elementary and secondary education. So that's how we read this. Then it specifically indicates what we are to introduce into the curriculum, the content. For Holocaust and genocide, the content is issues of bias, prejudice, and bigotry, including bullying through the teaching of the Holocaust and genocide. And then the last part, it tells us what grades or what content areas. So for this one, it is included for all children from kindergarten through 12th grade. And that's how we should read all of the mandates. In the bullets at the bottom, then you will see where we as a district have chosen to implement it. Why? Because what the standard does not mean, it does not mean every content area, every day, every lesson, every unit, right? It's where the district feels it's appropriate as long as we're meeting the mandate, and then we layer on that our district priority, but we will not expect to see the mandate implemented in every content, every day, every unit, every lesson, okay? So for Holocaust and genocide education, these are the content areas in which it's being implemented. You will see that in social studies, in addition to following the direct guidance from the New Jersey Commission on Holocaust Education, we're also integrating Holocaust education throughout our curriculum, specifically in grades 8 through 9, 11 through 12. We invite guest speakers to come to the district to speak to our students. We have authors visits. In ELA, this is an example of some of the texts that are being integrated. Again, in our companion document, you will find much more detail. In school counseling, there is also a curriculum integration, and they also lead the effort with character education and week of respect. While that applies to all grades, it's specifically important to our elementary grades so that we can really help our younger students wrap themselves around what does the Holocaust mean? What does genocide look like in the mind of a kindergartner? In library science, there's print, there's digital materials, there's virtual book rooms, author visits. We have days of remembrance. And of course, we have professional development to include coursework that a lot of our teachers engage in. When we think about the Amistad Mandate, these are the years. You'll see 2 dates there, 2002 and 2021. Again, where is it implemented? In the curriculum of all elementary and secondary school students. It gives us the content. It infuses into all courses on the United States. So that's where it belongs. Any course that deals with the United States. The centuries of accomplishments by African Americans in the building and development of America, including but not limited to the areas of industry, military, government, professions, local communities, math, science, medicine, space, architecture and the arts, social institutions and culture, and other aspects of life in America. And so then these are the 4 areas in which we are integrating the Amistad curriculum in social studies, English language arts, science, and library science. Very much so in social studies. On our district website, on our social studies website, you will see a side-by-side document that says for every single unit of social studies, here is how the Amistad Mandate is integrated. One thing that the state said to us when we met with them, we met with each representative of the mandates on as a part of our committee work, and they walked us through what the expectations were. And they said the integration should appear seamless. You shouldn't see the curriculum and say, oh, that's this mandate, or, oh, that's this mandate. It should be seamless. It should be a part of the living curriculum. And so then that is what the social studies department has accomplished with this crosswalk document that, again, is available online. It does show the integration. Here are some curriculum examples of the integration of Amistad. We have very extensive professional development in that area, from racism in U.S. history to the Amistad Summer Symposium, which our teachers attend on an ongoing basis. And then when we're thinking about co-curricular, we have Museums in Motion with whom we partner. They come, they speak to our students, they do presentations, they do visits, they bring different speakers and give the students an opportunity to engage in some very robust dialogue. In the other content areas, we've added a new course, Black Authors and Voices, for grades 11 and 12. So again, moving beyond curriculum integration into the addition of new courses that really think about the windows and the mirrors, so that our students can see themselves reflected, and also they can see where the different groups of our student cultures are visible in history, in contribution. When we think about the texts, here is a list of the different texts in ELA. In science, you will see this repeated lessons around African Americans responsible for discoveries, technology, and inventions, but also asking the question, why have not contributions been recognized in the past? What biases exist? Why don't people receive credit? So this is an ongoing question that we're asking, open-ended, for Socratic seminar, for dialogues, for rich discussion in our classrooms. And again, in library science, we're constantly updating our collections. We're thinking about our digital resources. We have African American read-ins, displays, author visits, research, and biography studies. The mandate for history of disabled and history of LGBT, 2 separate mandates. We are not pleased at the fact that they combine the 2. We're posting it this way because the state does, but we understand these are 2 totally separate mandates. One is about the history of the disabled, and one is the history of LGBT. So for here, we're thinking about the contributions in appropriate places in the curriculum of middle and high school students. That's where this standard is, both politically, economically, socially, right? All of those areas. The district is implementing it across social studies, ELA, science, library science, and co-curricular. And then again, here are all the areas. Some of them repeat because we're looking at this similarly, whether it's a curricular integration, whether it's revising our curriculum to ensure that those contributions are reflected, not only the contributions, but that the narrative is accurate, that the perspective is clear, that it is never disparaging, and that it honors and respects the cultures and the people that we are looking to celebrate in all instances. So here we have examples in social studies, in ELA, and science, library science. And in addition to the curricular integrations, we have education and awareness. So for example, Autism Awareness Month, or Gender and Sexuality Alliances, right? Or Pride Month. So this is in addition to the curriculum. When we're thinking about climate change mandate, this mandate is a little different. This one is embedded directly in all of the standards. So there is no need to add as much as it is the need to ensure that the standards are being addressed in all of the classrooms, in all of the content areas. And so then they are all listed here. The climate change mandate is specifically around why does climate change happen, the impact on our local and global communities, and the human impact that climate change has. It is a mandate, again, that is in our standards. And so then here is how it is listed across the different standards, whether it's thinking about artworks created from different experiences, moving into health and physical education, gas, increasing temperature, intensity for extreme weather, social studies, the effects on human population and patterns, career readiness, thinking about potential solutions to climate change as students, our students as activists, our students as advocates for, our students as thinkers and problem solvers, and then in world languages as well, the global issues around the world in our different countries and how we are either helping to assist and aid the countries around the world with our problem solving. This mandate is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's one of the newer mandates, still 2020. Again, in an appropriate place in the curriculum of students in grades kindergarten through 12. We're thinking about the instruction of diversity and inclusion as we are implementing our standards. And so then in social studies in particular, we've revised our curriculum for grades K through 5. We've aligned it to the new standards, and we've integrated a more inclusive and diverse consideration for viewpoints. Also diverse texts, read alouds, primary and secondary sources. Here's an example of the different types of texts that have been integrated into the social studies curriculum. In addition to that, a curriculum review was performed by the New Jersey Council for the Social Studies this year. So throughout the year 2021-22, the Council for Social Studies took an in-depth look at our social studies curriculum. We invited them to come and have open access to what we teach and what we do and say, give us feedback. Are we doing what we need to do? Are we correctly implementing the mandates? Are we accurately representing our community? Are we accurately representing our narratives, our social studies, our history, the contributions, etc.? Are we well aligned to the standards? And so then that review was completed, and we will give a presentation at our next board meeting on August 22nd. In English language arts, we did a text audit K through 12. And so then we have considered our anchor texts. We've looked at the different genres, authors, copyrights, writing styles, social justice themes. And our key findings were that we had mostly fiction texts written by white male authors. And so then the committees really took a good look at our texts, our representations, and we have augmented our curriculum in different areas. First, we've diversified our text selection. And so then here is some of the work that we've done. We've integrated social justice into our professional development, whether it's zooming out from the individual to the social, moving beyond diversity to social justice, navigating our book challenges, creating themed ELA units around social justice, And then we've made curriculum revisions. So these are the three prongs that we use to address our finding. We've revised our high school curriculum. We've integrated social justice themed units. We've added correlating text lists that really are better representative of our community. And our elementary revisions are here as well. In library science, we've done the same thing with our collections in our libraries. And more interestingly, a good part of the work that is being led by Nancy Mullins and Elizabeth Veneziano is that they are reviewing our selection policy in committee. So what they're saying is, if there is a challenged text, how do we deal with that? i.e., 2 years ago, Dr. Seuss, right? We don't want the cancel culture in our district, right? But we need to be responsible over what we are submitting as a viable text to our students. So here's a text. It's a challenge text. The committee goes through that text, observes why it's inappropriate or what about it is inappropriate. And now they're looking to move it into a place in the library where students can come and say, well, these are challenge texts. Let's be critical of the text. Let the students say, well, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with the illustrations? What's wrong with a girl who is muted throughout the whole text, never has a voice, right? What is wrong with how we are being portrayed in this text? And then let them come up with their own conclusions around the text, but let the students have an opportunity to engage with the text and to engage with the issues surrounding the text versus just eliminating it from the library. So that is a part of the work. They'll be working on that next year as well, and then we'll be ready to report by the end of next year. Promoting literacy across the curriculum, always a priority. In mathematics, we're thinking about a pathway to equitable math instruction. And so we're specifically looking at resources and guidance to support Black, Latino, and multilingual students to thrive in grades 5 through 8. We're looking at the curriculum specifically. What does the research say about working with specific groups of students, and how do we assist those students and support their learning in math? Last year, they focused specifically on stride 2, which is fostering deep understanding, and they will continue to move through the strides as they go on. Our professional development around DEI has been extensive, specifically around social justice, thinking about navigating complex conversations, using picture books to help secondary students discuss complex social themes. And then there has been professional development that's building base. And then we are going to move into an initiative, again, that Dr. Pons and Dr. Schoen are leading next year that they'll talk about with all of our DEI initiatives and professional development that will begin. And then the last mandate for this evening, before we move on to the health standards, is Asian American Pacific Islander mandate. Again, in an appropriate place in the curriculum of students in grades kindergarten through 12, we're looking at the history and contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And so then in social studies at the elementary level, the social studies curriculum has been revised to integrate cultural traditions, celebrating culture. Here we have specifically the units that have been revised, so a parent is able to go online and see specifically those revisions. An example of diverse texts are listed here in those areas. At the elementary level, research on immigrant labor conditions, various topics related to labor practices, historic and modern times, also meeting with young immigrants who recently immigrated to America at the elementary level. And then at the secondary level, this is the old one. At the secondary level, we have students looking at Asian immigration patterns to the United States during the 19th and the 20th century. We have additional Japanese internment camps in the case Korematsu versus the U.S. That's what's being studied in grade 11. Students are participating in a Socratic seminar, studying and examining different peoples who lived throughout American history in the 18th and 19th century. And then the civil rights movement is studied and the quest for equal rights among the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. With that said, the council is currently being established for the Asian American Pacific Islander mandate. It hasn't been fully established yet. As it is, we will expect a flood of resources for the schools, and we will continue to expand this mandate. This mandate is implemented for the first time in September, so this one will grow Our expectation is, just as we have the Amistad side by side, that over time we'll be able to offer the same. In English language arts, here are some texts that are being integrated. Examples of teacher resources are here, and professional development has begun. Why AAP curriculum matters, and additional professional development is planned for next year. I'm going to shift into health and physical education. This is not a mandate, this is standards. So the standards were revised for health and phys ed, and we were supposed to implement them in September. They were revised in 2020. This did create quite a stir because I don't know that everyone understood what the state was looking for with the revision of the health mandate. So then they published a clarification memo. And in that clarification memo, they specifically said that, one, the district has a discretion to adopt health curriculum. We write our curriculum in West Orange. We don't adopt programs or foreign curriculum or external curriculum. We, as teachers, administrators, content area supervisors, develop our curriculum as we have done with health and phys ed, and it's our discretion to do so. Second, they've addressed specific expectations around the standards, and they clarified what that meant and what it did not mean. And also, they added an option for parents to opt out. So if they have a conflict with the conscience of what the standards are asking us to teach, then they can opt out. So, for example, and our curriculum has been revised, and it is posted on our district website, and it specifically shows what is being taught. For example, here in grades 3 through 5 under personal and mental health, the standard is explain common human sexual development and the role of hormones. You'll then see parentheses. The state published a document in which the parentheses, the examples that were given, were much more explicit. Anything that is in parentheses is not a requirement of the standard. It is at the discretion of the district. So we have in the parentheses put what we believe is developmentally appropriate for the students. So for this standard, it would read mood swings, timing of pubertal onset. Okay, so if you're looking at the standards and you see much more explicit language, it is within our prerogative as a district not to use those examples. We can choose what is in parentheses, and we are honoring the standards. Under personal safety, we've added a standard, sexual abuse and assault awareness and professional education. Here's the related skill. In grades 4-5, we've also removed examples that the state initially gave in parentheses, and we replaced them with district examples as we see developmentally appropriate. For social emotional health, SEL, we added the standard discuss the range of ways people express their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior. Here's the related content skill. In grade 5, you'll see the standards that we've also added around gender role stereotypes, around sexual orientation, around the promotion of dignity and respect for all people, and then the related skills. So these are new standards added to our health curriculum under SEL in grade 5. Again, all of the standards and the work around the standards and how we're integrating it into our curriculum, it will be posted on our website tomorrow alongside a companion document. And on our curriculum portal, you will see all of the new and revised curriculum. At our last board meeting, the board approved a whole lot of curriculum, right? So all of our revisions are on there, plus the health curriculum. You can just click on the grade as a parent, as a board member, as a community member. You can click on the content area and you can find our curriculum there listed. That was a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mendez, I want to thank you very much. Your presentation was comprehensive and articulate, on point and informative. But I do know, as I said to Ms. Butler and her school counselors, your team of supervisors and the teachers that they work closely with made everything that you presented tonight come to reality. And it is months and months and months of work. And the fact that it can be a resource to those who are not with us live this evening, but can look at it in their own time, on their own terms, I think is invaluable. So for the time you put with the presentation and working with the team, to your team members, on behalf of the board, and the information we now have, thank you very, very much. Very, very much. Great job. At this point, just to conclude my superintendent's report after both of these presentations, are there any questions from the board in regard to Ms. Butler and her team's SEL presentation, or Mr. Mendez and our curricular mandate presentation from the board at this point? Ms. Butler and Mr. Mendez, have a wonderful evening. Great job. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Schoen. And again, on behalf of the board, thank you to Mr. Mendez and Ms. Butler. We appreciate your time in putting all of these presentations together and being here tonight to enlighten us a little bit more about what is going on in our curriculum and our SEL here in the district. Thank you, Dr. Schoen, for your superintendent's reports. We'd like to move on to committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report tonight? No? Mr. Rothstein, or Vice President Rothstein?
Yes, thank you. First, I was a little slow in the uptake here, but I just wanted to also say thank you to Ms. Butler and Mr. Mendez for the presentations. And I had mentioned to Mrs. Mendez a couple weeks ago that I spent some time digging through the curriculum that's posted on the website, and it's such it's so valuable and really impressive, the work that the team here has done and what's available to the public to look at, to be aware of how curriculum is being implemented across the school district. It's really worth spending a little bit of time and understanding what we're doing here and how comprehensive and thorough it is. So it's one of the things I appreciate about our district and about our team. One brief word on policies that we have. A lot of policies coming up soon that need to be reviewed. And so the policy committee is working on that, and we'll bring that forward in an upcoming meeting. And then just a brief update on the superintendent search. So we're of course working with our consultants, Ray and Associates, on our search to find a new superintendent for West Orange. The deadline for candidates to apply for consideration closed on July 24th. The Board of Education members will be convening in closed session on Wednesday evening, August 10th. And along with our search consultants, we're going to be reviewing the pool of applicants. Based on the input of the surveys and stakeholder meetings, the board will choose 7 to 8 candidates to interview on the evening of August 15th and 16th. These initial first round interviews will be virtual. On the evening of the 16th, the board anticipates choosing 3 final candidates who will be interviewed in closed session on Saturday morning, August 20th. If after those final interviews, a successful candidate rises to the top, then we anticipate making an announcement on Monday evening, August 22nd, which is our next scheduled board meeting. So thanks to everyone for a lot of work on getting us here. Thank you.
Yes, and more work to come. But thank you, Vice President Rothstein. I appreciate that. And now next we will have questions from the public on agenda items only, please. Any community member who is with us tonight who would like to make a comment or ask any questions, you may come to the lectern at this time. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Jason Jackson, 25 Westview Road, West Orange, New Jersey. Also a teacher and coach here in the West Orange School District. Do want to also thank Ms. Butler, Mr. Mendez for their presentation. It was very exciting to see just all of the just different areas that we're going to be, not that we haven't embarked in them, but different areas moving forward that we'll be able to embark upon as educators and as parents, being excited for our young people to get that information. 2 questions on the agenda, number 4B2 and number 11. just some clarification. Are these funds, when I know it says not local funds, but are we just being made aware because these schools are in West Orange, that these are funds that have been given to them by the state, or just kind of explain how that, those funds work, so to speak? I know it says not local funds, so I'm assuming it's not coming directly from us, but just not sure as to if I'm reading it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Flowers, are you able to? I'm sorry. Ms. Flowers, are you able to answer Mr. Jackson's questions? Okay. We're in finance, Mr. Jackson? Under finance for? Business office, okay.
Page 10. Yeah.
Perfect. If you don't have those now, Ms. Flowers, or you do? Okay, great.
2 is the recommendation for approval of the proposed non-public security aid program expenditures. Those are funded through the state. Those are state aid funds that runs through the district to our non-publics. And number 11.
Similar.
Same here, right, number 11 on page 12, also the recommendation of the superintendent for approval of non-public state aid funds. Again, those are pass-through funds from the state. We then pass the funds through to our non-public schools. So you are correct. It's funds through the state. You're welcome.
Yes. So it doesn't actually come out of our
Out of our-
budget.
correct.
It's just a pass through.
Right.
Right. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, so nice to see everyone again. Thank you, Ms. Butler. Thank you, Mr. Mendez. The presentations were very impressive. A lot to digest, and I look forward to reviewing the documents. Oh, forgive me, I forgot to introduce myself. Fanny with United Asian Voices, and I am a mom of 2 students in the district, one headed to Edison and the other one a rising sophomore. I liked a lot of what I heard in the presentations today. Specifically, what you said, Mr. Mendez, that the mandates are the minimum standards. And I keyed in on that because I believe that our district can rise above those standards and do more. Someone told me recently that a lot of eyes across the state and across the country are on West Orange right now because of the curriculum development, because of the curriculum expansion work that we are doing. And I know that Mr. Mendez and your team have been working with the Asian American Education Project, the Immigrant History Initiative, and other curriculum resources and educators. And I'd like to also invite you to work with the parents and our allies in the district. We can be a part of the council that you mentioned. We can be part of the DEI advisory committee that once lived, that I heard mentioned that would be reinitiated. I'd like to have students and parents be a part of these committees and to provide feedback. One quick story. I heard about one Asian American mom who, 2 quick stories. One Asian American mom who was labeled a tiger mom because she advocated for her daughter, because she wanted her daughter to have a 501A plan. But the mom was kicked out of the guidance counselor's office because the guidance counselor saw the mom, Asian American, and said, "You're pushing too hard, and that's it. Your daughter doesn't need help. Your daughter is doing well. You are just pushing too hard because you're an Asian American mom." She was set aside. She was cast aside. That is not correct. Okay. That is not acceptable. Okay. That was stereotyping, if not racism. Another story, an Asian American educator mom in a nearby New Jersey school district advocated for over a year with her principal, with her superintendent, to no avail. Successfully, she was not successful, rather. She was civil, she She followed protocol. She was trying to get a gender neutral bathroom for her child. Not until students spoke up was something done the next day. So that's a message to our students who are watching this evening, that students, you have an incredible voice. So please do speak up in your classrooms, in your schools, with your teachers. And I urge the teachers to do so as well. The other thing, I know that the AAPI mandate is focused on history. I'd love to see it expanded to include literature. Again, West Orange School District goes beyond the minimum. So let's also integrate literature into AAPI literature, into the classrooms, into our print and digital materials. And one final comment, I know we'll have more. I know UAV members will be submitting written comments. One thing I would like to see is discussion on cross-racial collaboration, cross-racial collaboration throughout history and bringing it forward to today, because we don't want to just study individual communities in silos. We want to talk about how our communities have worked together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jan Jarvis? No, please. Thank you so very much for your comments, and I'm going to do my best to try to hit all of the points. Hopefully I'll get them overarching. I do appreciate your comments and concur as far as our presentation tonight, and there's so much that's attached online. You had made comment in regard to more comments and more questions being asked as a result. We applaud that and welcome that. I do ask that you focus those to Mr. Mendez, who is best poised in our district, not that she won't share, but to be able to circulate those. We are much better together than we are alone. So I would absolutely embrace comments from our parents in regard to those things. Going back to the DEI mandate and reinitiating a group that could absolutely include students and parents. I'll be working with Dr. Pollins as a result of that and in moving forward. Two last comments. The mandates are the minimum, but you did say it yourself at the end. We go above the minimum. I think that we always do. I appreciate you saying that, but I do think it needs a foundation for a start. And so saying that is important. Doing more than that is our job. So, and we do that well. Finally, you left us with two examples relative to students and the experiences they had with either a gender neutral bathroom or something as far as the school counselor is concerned, and perhaps, or rather in their opinion, being treated differently because of who they are. While I wouldn't go into what that is today, I do ask that you reach out to those people most closely associated or have the friend or the parent or the resident. Either speak with Ms. Butler if it is a school counselor piece and kind of offline, right? Because I wouldn't get into those specifics here, but that doesn't take away from the importance that we had students and our parents with not feeling whole at the end of a conversation. So if they are left with how they feel, we can't tell them it's wrong. What we can do is figure out what that interpretation is. And because the board can't do that, I don't want to leave that unsaid to you. It is important that we follow up. So if you would kindly ask the person who shared that with you to have the confidence to be able to do so, so that we can all move forward in a better manner, right? And I think that that interpretation is important, and we couldn't begin to do that from our seats. Sound good? Thank you. I appreciate you listening. And Mr. Mendez, of course, if you get any information from the public in regard to questions and those kind of things, once we have responses, perhaps we can share that with the board so that we're all on the same page with our initiatives moving forward. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to say that I think it was prior to the pandemic, because I remember we were in the auditorium at the high school for or maybe it was during the pandemic, for a social studies presentation. And this board did commit to going above and beyond in our from what is just mandated. And I know Mr. Mendez has been doing that. So we're proud to continue to do that work. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Harrell, and I have now a first grader and a second grader at St. Cloud. And
Ms. Harrell, your address for the record, please.
sorry, it's for Gavin.
Thank you.
The first thing I like to say is that I had emailed the board and Dr. Schoen regarding some procedure issues that I had when we were sending out surveys for the superintendent. And I just wanted to say thank you for calling and saying, yeah, we could do this better. And we didn't have enough access or time. The survey was really unwieldy and it was fixed. And I want to say thanks. I work in district administration also, and to see its quick turnaround and a response, I thank you. I also want to echo the need for the intersectionality among each of those mandates that we spoke about tonight. There are people who are members of the LGBT community who are also Black, who are also Asian. And a danger is to start to see each of those on one screen and one mandate, right? And our kids don't fit into just one bucket. I know my family, so I'm a white mom. I have a Black son. And I look and it's so important that he is seen every day. I also have a white daughter who needs to see her brother being seen, right? And who needs to see herself as a scientist and a mathematician. And so when I see what is possible, I just know that we moved here for this, and that challenge literally motivates everything. I want us to remember again that it's not just about the history, but it's about celebrating the now and looking at our kids and seeing the greatness. I love the profiles that we see online when our kids are succeeding, but there's also little individual moments in the day that we can lift our students up. We don't have to necessarily look for that like social media blast, but the things that our kids hear when they come home from, and they can tell you what their teacher saw. And so in those professional development, I think it was best said by Miss Butler, who's like, there's things we're doing, but we need to make sure that our teachers are able to name them so that our kids can then name them. And I know that our kids are learning in the things that we're saying and not saying. And so the more that we get our teachers aware of that, the more we're able to amplify those positive messages and get rid of some of that negativity. So again, while it's on a screen, it's great. I just want to make sure that we're continuing it to be infused and not just a curricular box, right, that we're checking. And finally, I would also just push us to know that it's great if the curriculum is strong. We also need our kids to see people who look like them teaching this curriculum. And that continues to be something that seems to be a struggle here in West Orange. And I know that it's been a focus. I think many parents that I work with, I'm on the diversity council at St. Cloud, and that is really important for us and for our district, that this great curriculum is taught by people who can speak to our kids and from personal stories. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I just want to address those comments very quickly and say, one, thank you for the comment. You know, I think that as we saw the presentations tonight around SEL and the curriculum mandates, I think what you really alluded to, as I interpret it, was the necessity of parent engagement coupled with all of that, because it's important for school leaders and for teachers and for community to really know what's going on in the classroom. And parents, as the principal advocates for their kids, you're getting that feedback in real time to be able to share that with teachers, so that then teachers, hopefully, as the practitioners in the classroom, begin to take that feedback and appropriately implement it to the things that Ms. Butler spoke about and the things that Mr. Mendez spoke about. With respect to, and I say this as a citizen, right? With respect to becoming a more diverse teaching force or the more diverse district, obviously there's several factors that go into that. The district is doing what it can in order to effectively recruit and promote a diverse district. There's structural impediments that sometimes preclude how that advances, and I think the community should be aware of that. But lastly, I think that when you talk about the need to have that in practice, right? Curriculum and the theoretical pieces around SEL are vital, and it's the foundation, but it really is the respect for the students that are before our classroom teachers, a respect for their ability to learn, a respect to say that we can implement rigor along with social emotional learning, to say that we can have mandates run alongside existing, core curriculum and instruction. And that really is important as we look at how those things are all integrated and all meshed, and there is an intersectionality that occurs to achieve an ultimate success. So it's really the gamut and how it plays in the theoretical conception and really the practical implementation at the classroom and school level, and that those various constituencies are communicating. And I think often when the problem occurs, or if there's a problem that occurs, it's that we're not communicating. So I appreciate Dr. Schoen's leadership and the leadership of the board to now make this district a receptive place to have challenging discussions when things don't flow and function as we would ideally like them to. And I think that is really important so that parents can receive the information and the district can respond in an appropriate way. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Okay. All right.
Let me make a comment because I don't want you to think that everything that you said was not heard. I wrote down celebrate the now, and I'm still reeling with that because I think that is such an exceptional statement. I also agree with everything Mr. Stevenson said, but what I keep thinking to myself with all the presentations this evening is I believe that this district can accomplish anything that it wants to. And the reason that I do in such a short period of time is, there's a book From Good to Great, right? And one of the biggest comments in that is to have the right people on the bus. And the right people are the administrators and the teachers, right? And all the staff and the counselors and the office staff and the parents and paras and nurses. It takes all of us. And West Orange being diverse is to be celebrated. And our parents add such an integral component to all of that, as do our students and their voices and having them part of a group. So I'm hearing everything that you're saying and I'm writing it down and I'm hearing what Mr. Stevenson is saying. And part of me is smiling both inside and out because the asks are things that we can do, where I am sure there are districts out there that may have difficulty getting to that place. We have the right people and we are an exceptional school district. Can we be better every day? All the time in our classrooms, individually, as administrators, collectively, but to be open and to be receptive and to bring the right people on the bus to move us forward with the motivation and the willingness to do so and the love for children. It's a recipe of perfection. So we're going to get better every day. So I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Schoen. Okay, I'd like to move on to our resolutions. I'd like to start with a motion to approve personnel items A1 through A6.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Before I ask the board for any comments, I would like to congratulate our retiree, Isaraya Mikchi, sorry, and to say thank you for your 13 years of service to West Orange students and to our school community. Best wishes to you on behalf of the entire Board of Education. Anyone else? Comments? Questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the vote.
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliffe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, I would like to have a motion to approve the curriculum and instruction items B1 through B3.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Any discussion? No, seeing none. Ms. Flowers, do you take the vote?
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliffe.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. I'd like to have a motion to approve the finance items, C, special services items 1 through 4, and business office items 1 through 11.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. That was motioned by Mr. Stevenson and seconded by Ms. Huerta. I want to give a thank you to the adoptaclassroom.org for the $5,000 donation for Washington Elementary School for purchase of teacher supplies. And thank you to the West Orange Music Booster Club for the donation of the gas-powered club car. Any discussion? Comments? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll call.
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, I'd like to have a motion to approve the, wait, we don't have an HIV.
We do.
Let's see. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, okay,
So-
so,
What I'm saying is that we don't have an HIV report. So can we table D1?
Sure.
yes, okay.
Okay, attachment 10. Okay.
So,
Is that,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
you have table 10
You know what? Just
Yeah,
put one
attachment 10 was
we're
the,
doing the minutes.
to accept?
Yeah, I think it was the summation of,
It's not an individual, Ms. Flowers, it's not an individual. So my correction, would you be kind enough to move forward
move
D1 and 2? It's a whole year report.
oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I just need a motion.
I'll
for
motion.
D1. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, so that was a motion by Ms. Huerta and a second by Mr. Stevenson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, could you take the roll call?
Mrs. Huerta,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you all to my board colleagues for swiftly moving through our resolutions. Next up, we have petitions and hearings of citizens on any agenda item or non-agenda item that you wish to discuss. Again, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we can move on. Just want to thank everyone tonight and those of you who are here and everyone who's engaged with the board tonight. We really appreciate it. Our next regular board meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. on August 22nd. This meeting will be held here at the West Orange High School Library Media Center. We will not be going into executive session after the close of this meeting. There will be no further business discussed and no additional action will be taken. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I.
Aye. This meeting is now adjourned.